It all begins on a dark night, with heavy rain and lightning in the sky. From that moment, you know that something bad is about to happen. Indeed, a group of masked thugs can be seen who have kidnapped the students of that school in a sports hall. Some of them are crying and thinking about their parents. Suddenly, one of the students named Ahao shows a burst of courage, and when he tries to react violently, he is stopped by another schoolmate, a red-haired boy. This red-haired boy is the protagonist named Ling Lun, who tries to persuade him not to waste time and get beaten up. While the protagonist convinces the boy, 5 other students with superhero complexes attack, thinking that being 5 against 4 kidnappers would give them an advantage. They hadn't even landed the first blow when one of the kidnappers starts attacking savagely, and blood begins to rain everywhere. While they beat up the boys, the rest of the classmates take advantage of the moment and run like horses trying to escape. Ling Lun signals to his friend Ahao to escape, but he is concerned about what is happening to those who are being beaten. At that moment, Ling Lun has a kind of flashback to his childhood, with a scene in which a man is giving his mother a hard time because he had left other children in a river without a float. But Ling Lun's excuse is that the float could not save all 5 children because it would not hold the weight of all of them, so he thought of saving himself first. After the flashback, we see the protagonist trying to escape through one of the darkest areas so that they are not seen and also beaten up. Suddenly, Ling Lun sees a person with turquoise blue hair named Jifang. With his face showing relief that they finally came to rescue them, Ling Lun watches as Jifang launches himself at the wrongdoers, slashing at them and moving at super speed. Then he stops and begins to sheath his katana, and the protagonist realizes that he only cut 3 out of the 4 kidnappers. The 4th kidnapper then goes to catch a student who is running and calling for help. Before he can catch him, Jifang appears, wielding his katana and giving the kidnapper a cut, throwing him to the ground. Ling Lun exclaims with a face full of excitement, "He's from the Psionic Association." We see Jifang in the midst of the crowd of students running out of the classroom. Ling Lun shouts Jifang several times but he doesn't hear him. Later, Jifang thinks that the most important thing is to save himself. A few seconds later, Jifang is seen talking on his cell phone, notifying him that the situation is under control. However, while he talks on the phone, he doesn't realize that one of the captors is about to deliver a lethal blow. At the last second, Ling Lun jumps on Jifang, preventing him from receiving the imminent impact. We see another flashback of Ling Lun in his childhood, explaining to his mother that he wasn't selfish and that in the river incident, he tried to swim quickly to the shore to get the psychic's attention, and thus save the other 4 children. After the flashback, we return to the scene where Jifang is surprised to not have died, while the criminal tells him that he was saved only because Ling Lun helped him. By the way, he appears without a mask, and with that face, we know why he used the mask. The kidnapper lifts Ling Lun by the head with one hand and mocks how he should die to make Jifang happy. This is when Jifang tells him to stop and not to kill him, but the criminal will spare Ling Lun if Jifang throws his katana. While Jifang considers his options, the villain tightens his grip on the protagonist's head, almost to the point of exploding. This is when Jifang agrees to throw his katana in exchange for Ling Lun's release. When Jifang throws his weapon, the kidnapper mocks him, saying that without his katana, he is no match for him. While the katana is spinning before touching the ground, Jifang lunges at the kidnapper and with super speed, picks up the katana and cuts the criminal's arm in half, freeing Ling Lun. Ling Lun also falls to the ground, injured by the cut. With a smile on his face, Jifang apologizes but says it was the only way to end the threat. Ling Lun, bleeding on the ground, listens to Jifang as he tells him not to worry and that he would die a hero. With the same smile, he tells him to rest in peace. As Ling Lun is slowly dying and losing consciousness, he watches Jifang walk away, talking on his cell phone, notifying someone of the accident where Ling Lun ended up dead. As he lies there dying, Ling Lun wonders if it was really worth it to have helped save Jifang, only to be left to die without any concern from him. Meanwhile, outside the school, we see Ling Lun's mother looking for him, but she is told not to worry because the psychic hero is with her son. The truth is that our protagonist is on the ground, dying and wondering if he should have been a hero or not. A few minutes later, we see a scene in a cemetery where Ling Lun's mother is crying inconsolably in the rain over the death of her son. Ahao, his friend, is also there. The gravestone with Ling Lun's photo can be seen, followed by the news that a group of villains attacked Wencheng High School, and that thanks to the psychic Jifang, more than 200 people were saved. Jifang appears, giving a statement about his duty as a protector of the citizens, and the people cheer happily for having a guardian who protects them. After the scene ends, we see Ling Lun again on the ground, bleeding to death, and in front of his eyes, a kind of virtual menu appears, giving him the option to resurrect if he so desires. Ling Lun looks incredulous at the menu with the options yes or no, and almost dying. He thinks that if resurrection means not dying, then he chooses the option yes. Once Ling Lun selects yes, the menu changes with a message, resurrection reward activated. The host gains the absorption ability. Do you want to activate it? Ling Lun chooses yes again, and the menu changes with a new message. The system will now begin to repair. Immediately, Ling Lun begins to receive electrical shocks that cover his whole body. As Ling Lun recovers, he wonders, what is the absorption ability? And his second question is, can I get revenge on Jifang? In an instant, we see Ling Lun's fangs coming out of his teeth as he exclaims that he is going to kill Jifang. He heads towards Jifang, who is talking on his cell phone, notifying someone of Ling Lun's supposed death. Without realizing it, Ling Lun sinks his teeth into his shoulder, causing Jifang to scream in pain. We can see Jifang's red blood cells and DNA, and the menu appears again, with the selected target being Jifang and the absorbing abilities line enabled, highlighting Shadow Step, Snake Cut, Crow Hang, and Breathing Method, and the level of each ranging from Beginner, Advanced, and Maximum. Surprised Jifang, thinking that Ling Lun was already dead, unsheathes his katana, but Ling Lun had already activated the Shadow Step ability. Just as the katana is about to cut his face, Ling Lun moves so quickly that he is not harmed. The menu appears again with the message Successful Absorption, Max Level. Ling Lun is surprised to have acquired the Shadow Step ability, but he doesn't have much time to think because Jifang is attacking him with his katana, trying to kill him. However, Ling Lun is much faster and moves in all directions without being hit. While Jifang is in the fight to annihilate Ling Lun, a genetic recombination process begins in Jifang's DNA. Suddenly, Jifang becomes immobile and sheathes his weapon in front of Ling Lun, who looks at him in disbelief. Then, the menu appears again with the message Second Ability, Manipulation Completed, First Slave Acquired. Jifang exclaims Master, and Ling Lun is still in shock and does not understand what has happened. The menu describes the abilities and benefits of biting someone, but Ling Lun thinks it was just a bite. He starts to talk to Jifang, who responds to everything with I'm sorry, Master. However, Ling Lun does not want to be called Master and accuses Jifang of potentially causing his death. Jifang admits with great shame that the sacrifice of some is necessary to eliminate a greater evil. This response does not please Ling Lun, who wants to see if Jifang will really obey him completely. He orders Jifang to take his own life, and Jifang reacts by drawing his katana. Just as he is about to slit his own throat, he is interrupted by Ling Lun, who decides to forgive him even though he may have caused Ling Lun's death. Then Ling Lun comes up with a prank to play on Jifang, ordering him to take off his pants so he can film him with his phone and show it to everyone. A photo shoot begins, similar to a model catalog, and Ling Lun mocks him with every photo he takes. When the joke is over, a beautiful lady enters the room and sees Jifang without clothes and Ling Lun taking pictures, making for a very awkward situation. Ling Lun orders Jifang to get dressed while he explains to the lady that it was a misunderstanding. However, she is only looking for Jifang and recommends that Ling Lun leave because they are looking for him. The next day, we see the building of the Psychic Association, where we see the same young woman with reddish hair talking to Jifang, who asks him uncomfortable questions about what happened the previous night. She looks at him with a gotcha expression, but Jifang tells her it's not his problem. She then changes the subject and asks him for a report for the press conference. Meanwhile, we see Ling Lun in his classroom receiving a notification that his ability was only temporary and that he needs to have redeemable points to have greater abilities, but he doesn't know how to get those points. He falls asleep at his desk, and his teacher wakes him up by hitting him on the head. Ling Lun explains that his tiredness is due to not sleeping well because of the kidnapping, but the teacher tells him it was just an accident, and that they are protected by psychics. Ling Lun thinks of one of his conspiracy theories and tells the teacher that the kidnapping happened during the shift change, and only the teachers know the shift schedules. When the teacher asks what he means, he is interrupted by one of Ling Lun's classmates, one of those who thinks they're tough because they have green hair. He says that Ling Lun thinks the teachers conspired with the kidnappers to hold them hostage, and as a result, he is sent to the corner for punishment. After class, they are all talking, and the green-haired student makes fun of Ling Lun for not being there the night of the kidnapping to help save everyone. He calls Ling Lun selfish and says he only wanted to save himself. The other classmates agree, and at that moment, Ling Lun receives a message with 10 points added. He still doesn't understand how the points are added up. His friend Ahao decides to confront the green-haired student, who is called Wang Tian, but Ling Lun reacts faster by slapping him. Then Ling Lun receives a notification that he has gained 5 more points and realizes that he gains points when something offensive happens to him. Wang Tian gets angry and tries to hit Ling Lun back, but Ling Lun moves quickly and runs out of the classroom before Wang Tian can use his family technique called Thunder Palm. Later we see Ling Lun eating in the school cafeteria and his friend enters, asking him how he can eat so calmly after what just happened. Ling Lun simply responds that he is very hungry and they start talking about what the protagonist will do. It is then revealed that the school is an academy for young people who can develop their powers and become psychics. The conversation continues about what the future holds for the protagonist. Elsewhere, representatives from the Psychic Management Association give a press report, and while Ling Lun and his friend are still in the cafeteria, they see on television the news of the event from last night. The presenter announces that Jifang will explain the events, but the young woman with red hair appears and announces that Jifang will not be able to attend as he is in intensive care due to multiple injuries received during the attack while rescuing hostages. Ling Lun remembers that Jifang wasn't so badly injured, but then receives a notification that Jifang had died. The young woman continues to say that Jifang will be in recovery and is unable to make statements for the time being. Ling Lun wonders if Jifang was really killed because he was going to tell the truth about what happened. Later we see Ling Lun in his room, walking and thinking about whether they will discover who the protagonist is. He also knows that he must be more careful with his biting ability. He then leaves his room and tells his mom that he is hungry, but notices that something is off. However, he doesn't have much time to think about it because his obese neighbor Kun knocks on the door several times and asks how much they invested. They turn on the television and see the news that the pharmaceutical company Quanjin had cheated many merchants, and they were all protesting to get their money back because the products supplied were of poor quality. Returning home, neighbor Kun apologizes to Ling Lun's mother for making her invest in buying low-quality products, using the inheritance left by Ling Lun's father. While Ling Lun's mother cries in worry, the neighbor hits herself in shame and explains that she convinced Ling Lun's mother to invest in these products to enhance the powers of those who consume them. As Ling Lun's mother was worried since Ling Lun was the last one to come out during the kidnapping, she wanted him to develop his powers quickly and become stronger. After that, to calm his mother, Ling Lun says he will visit his friend from school. When he leaves, he goes to where the protest was taking place. People were demonstrating, and he avoids the crowd, making a super jump over the wall of the closed company. He walks through various offices until he reaches the general manager's office, where he starts looking for any clue to find information on the scammer or his accomplices, but finds nothing. While he continues to search for any trace, he hears footsteps, and when he turns, he sees a skinny guy with glasses who claims to be the leader of the protest. The leader asks him how he got in, and Ling Lun says he found an open back door and just wanted to help find some clues. A few seconds later, he receives a notification that he has received 1 point for integrity from Liu Ben, leaving Ling Lun surprised. He asks, "Are you Liu Ben?" And Liu Ben responds yes. Ling Lun pretends not to know him and does not respond. Then he receives a notification that he has earned 1 point for disliking Liu Ben. Ling Lun thinks about why he dislikes him and decides to ask him about how he got in and what he's doing there. Liu Ben responds that he also got in through the open door. Ling Lun continues to talk about the people who run the factory and hopes that karma will come to them. Liu Ben only nods, and Ling Lun receives another notification of 2 additional points for disliking Liu Ben. Then Ling Lun confronts the supposed leader of the protest, telling him that he is one of the accomplices. In seconds, he receives another notification of 2 more points. Liu Ben tries to avoid the topic, but with the points he has earned, Ling Lun activates his ability to absorb, and in a careless moment from Liu Ben, he bites him on the neck, gaining access to Liu Ben's abilities. He realizes that Liu Ben is an acting teacher. Liu Ben then begins to insult and accuse him, saying he will sue him. However, before he finishes his sentence, Ling Lun uses the phrase "I love you," and Liu Ben is now under his control. Ling Lun starts asking him questions to get information, then orders him to take him to the scammer. Some time later, we see a luxury hotel where we see a fat man in a robe showing a psionic piece of great value in the market to a companion lady. They talk about how long he will be hidden, but he explains that it will be for a short time. He also boasts of having 6 bodyguards that no one can beat. Moments later, Ling Lun arrives in the elevator with his slave Liu, and they are received by the 6 bodyguards. However, Liu indicates that they are together, and they greet the fat man in the robe who is President's son. Ling Lun closes the door, leaving the 4 of them alone in the room. As they get closer, Ling Lun remembers his mother crying. When he is near, the fat man only humiliates him and offers him money. He also reminds him of the story of a woman who was recently desperate to buy psionic crystals. Ling Lun knows that they are talking about his mother and, without letting him finish talking, he punches him in the face, knocking him off the couch where he was sitting. The bodyguards hear the noises, but Liu Ben opens the door and tells them that they are just making some sweet love. In reality, Ling Lun is punching the fat man in the face while yelling "scammer," and with each blow, he earns additional points. Then we see the bodyguards outside, coughing and blushing to avoid hearing the uncomfortable noises from the room. But in reality, President's son is on the floor with his face all deformed from the blows he received. Then Ling Lun stops to ask him about the money from the scams, and Son only responds that he has no money and invested the money in real psionic crystals. Ling Lun does not believe him and slaps him. The fat man then explains that he is a stone appraiser and can recognize which stones are real with psionic energy. Then Ling Lun thinks it would be a good idea to have that ability. But when he decides to bite him, he realizes that he does not have enough points to activate the ability to absorb. So he looks for a way to earn points to recharge his balance and asks his slave Liu Ben if the bodyguards are psionics. Liu Ben responds that they are normal people without powers. Ling Lun has the idea that Liu Ben should fire them and tell them that he replaced them. This way, he will earn points for anger. While this is happening, Ling Lun finds the crystal that the fat man had in his hand. The fat man tells him that it is a powerful crystal. Then Ling Lun thinks, well, if it's so powerful, it will surely make me recover all the energy I need. Without thinking much, he swallows the crystal. Seconds later, we see Ling Lun with a face that shows he has eaten something spicy and exclaims, "I can already feel the power." But the bodyguards open the door, holding Liu Ben by the neck, looking for trouble with Ling Lun because they were fired because of him. Now we see a flash of information from the escort company. They are called GUEPARDO Security. They also explain that they are mercenaries with unique abilities, and we discover that the president, Sun Chenggong, is 46 years old and paid a lot of money to this company to protect him. Then we return to the present, where we see him with a swollen face from Ling Lun's blows, followed by the 6 bodyguards all unconscious on the floor of the room. Ling Lun checks his points and sees that they have gone up, so he takes advantage and bites Sun on a finger. After crying from the bite, Sun responds with a "Yes, master." Suddenly notifications of points earned start pouring in, and he realizes that the displeasure caused by his slaves is transferred to him. Then he orders both of them to return the money of the defrauded people or give them real psionic crystals. He also discovers that the family of the green-haired Wang Tian runs a pharmaceutical group that sells fraudulent crystals. He orders his slaves to collect information on the illegal acts of the Wang pharmaceutical group. Then he says goodbye and records his contact number on their cell phone before asking for the address where they sell cheap psionic crystals. Sun gives him the address, and Ling Lun sets out in that direction. When he arrives at the address, we see Ling Lun walking through the bazaar, where all the vendors offer items, stones, and objects that are said to be psionic. As he walks, he discovers that many of the things they sell are fake. Suddenly, a person in a cap knocks him down and quickly walks away, talking on a device while instructing him to get rid of the merchandise quickly. Still rubbing his sore spot from the blow, Ling Lun doesn't realize that there's a silver-haired girl communicating on another device, notifying him that there's a suspect in the area. When he turns around accidentally, both of their faces collide simultaneously. The young woman, still in pain, runs to try to stop the man in the cap who had stumbled on Ling Lun moments before. While the suspect flees, he destroys everything in his path, and one of his arms begins to rapidly develop the ability to increase mass and volume with a reddish coloration. Just like bodybuilders when they take excess steroids, Ling Lun recognizes this ability as he remembers that one of the assailants had it, so he supposes that it could be one of the accomplices. Before making a single move, behind Ling Lun, a muscular, bearded, bald man with a scar on his right eye appears, who is coordinating guidelines to catch the suspect. Ling Lun recognizes him as Lei Hu, Wang Tian's uncle, who, as a spoiled child, boasted about his uncle's deck as a powerful psionist in school every time he can. Minutes later, Lei Hu appears at a high point trying to spot the fleeing suspect. Once he detects him, he makes a mega jump, throwing himself at the runner and landing right in front of him. Then he launches a kind of Kamehameha, causing him to go through a wall and be badly injured. Lei Hu approaches, and the suspect in the cap begs him to let him live and keep the secret. But Lei Hu wants to know where the thing is. While Lei Hu interrogates the suspect, Ling Lun arrives and remains hidden, listening to the conversation. However, the suspect spends his last energies trying to transform his arms into massive ones, but Lei Hu uses his power and with one hand, he explodes the suspect's body in two. At that moment, Ling Lun is surprised, and Lei Hu realizes that someone is present, so he decides to investigate. As he approaches step by step, Ling Lun thinks about biting him, but when trying to activate the absorption ability, he realizes that he does not have enough points because his opponent's power is superior to his. When Lei Hu is about to discover him, fortunately, an explosion occurs and Lei Hu is distracted, so Ling Lun takes advantage of the opportunity to escape, turning down an alley. However, Lei Hu manages to see someone escaping from the corner of his eye, so he notifies his men that there are accomplices in the perimeter. Ling Lun runs around trying to evade the other members of Lei Hu's group. But as he tries to flee, he realizes that he is running out of options. At the last moment, he finds a path that turns out to be a dead end, unfortunately, the only place that Lei Hu and his group have not checked, and they are precisely heading there. Ling Lun experiences moments of anguish, and just as the group is about to arrive, hands grab him from behind and cover his breath. The group, along with its leader Lei Hu, bursts into the site and realizes that no one is there. Ling Lun wonders how it is possible that they cannot see him. As he thinks this, he realizes that it is the young woman with silver hair, who has a credential that says she is an inspector and her name is She-100. Being camouflaged, Lei Hu hits the wall in frustration because he thinks they have escaped the accomplice. However, he is notified by one of his men that they have found the accomplice, and they all leave the site. Being alone, the inspector releases Ling Lun, who tells her that she was choking him. He thanks her and asks if she is a psionist. As they walk together, Ling Lun tells her that Lei Hu knew the assailant and also killed him. She only tells him that he must have evidence because Lei Hu is a recognized member of the association, and the inspection division that oversees psionists is very strict when it comes to investigating. Ling Lun thinks for a moment and responds that if he gets the evidence, then he will present the case. The next morning, we see Ling Lun entering his school while he thinks and analyzes all the information he has about the case. As he walks towards his classroom, he sits in his seat and wonders why it is almost empty. Then one of his classmates enters and informs another student that Ah Hao and Wang Tian are fighting in the field, and most of the students are there. In the field, many students can be seen watching the fight. Suddenly, Ah Hao hits Wang Tian in the face and indicates that the fight is over, but Wang Tian is not finished and wants to continue. Ah Hao tries to retire, but other classmates push him. At that moment, he receives a punch in the face from Wang Tian. Then, enraged, he insults him. Ah Hao tries to punch him, but Wang Tian stops him. At that moment, Wang Tian charges up his energy and is about to land a decisive blow. Out of nowhere, with lightning speed, Ling Lun appears in the field and knocks down Wang Tian with a kick. Everyone is surprised. Then, while Wang Tian reacts and gets up from the ground, Ah Hao and Ling Lun wonder what will happen. Everyone in the field is surprised by how Ling Lun managed to kick Wang Tian's butt, as he is supposedly the strongest in the school. Enraged, Wang Tian gets up from the ground and runs towards Ah Hao and Ling Lun. As they discuss what plan to make to defend themselves, Ah Hao asks Ling Lun to teach him the super kick. Then Ling Lun tells him it's a difficult trick and it's a matter of concentration and focus. After finishing explaining, he starts running in another direction, leaving his friend alone. Wang Tian starts following him, but two friends of Wang Tian intercept Ah Hao. Ling Lun quickly runs until he reaches the roof of a building under construction. Once they are alone, Ling Lun confronts him and tells him that he knows the truth, and his family is involved in the kidnapping. Wang Tian is surprised but does not deny anything. On the contrary, he tells him the whole truth about how he found a key belonging to a professor, and thus gained access to the information of the schedules of the psionic patrollers. He then shows him the key and confesses that he has told him everything because he will beat him up and frame him as an accomplice of the assailants by placing the key on him. Ling Lun had thought about biting him and turning him into a better person, but after that confession, he changes his mind. So, activating the shadow step, he launches himself at Wang Tian, who despite throwing punches, fails to connect any. However, with each movement, Ling Lun punches him in the face, then gives him a kick in honor of his friend Ah Hao. Injured, Wang Tian spends his last energy trying to annihilate Ling Lun, but Ling Lun, who is faster, launches himself at Wang Tian, breaking his spine and causing a vertebral fracture. That's why Wang Tian, realizing that he can't move his leg, begins to scream that he will tell his family, including his uncle Lei Hu, to destroy Ling Lun and his family. Ling Lun walks away, not before showing him that he recorded the entire conversation on his cell phone, which he takes advantage of sending to the Inspector Shi 100. In another scene, we see Ah Hao, who is somewhat beaten and tired but has won against Wang Tian's two friends. 2 weeks have passed since the rooftop incident, and Ling Lun is talking on the phone with Inspector Shi 100, who informs him of the progress of the case and the results obtained. They even notify him that Wang Tian has been sent to a detention center for minors. He also learns that Lei Hu is released due to lack of evidence of his involvement in the case, despite having killed someone. As a robber, he was just doing his duty. Also, his contribution to the case will remain anonymous, and his data will be protected. After hanging up the call, Shi 100 talks with a long-haired man in a wheelchair who seems interested in Ling Lun joining the association. Changing scenes, we see students at school waiting for the results of the blood test they had previously taken to present the psionic exam. While they wait, two classmates make fun of Ling Lun because they think he has no potential and remember when he wanted to run away on the day of the kidnapping. Suddenly, the loudspeakers mention that the students who passed the exam are Ah Hao and Ling Lun. The two who are making fun of him are in shock, envious of their luck. In an instant, Ling Lun receives a notification of points earned for causing displeasure to those two. Both Ling Lun and his friend arrive at the basketball court, where they meet 3 other students from other classrooms, Chen Dakui, Ruin Lushi, and Lin Si. After introducing themselves, they wonder where the teacher is. Suddenly, a noise is heard, and a black cat appears on one side of the fence. On top of the fence, the figure of a hooded person appears, who asks if they are all the ones who passed the test. Everyone looks surprised, and no one says anything. Then the hooded person tells the cat that it's time. With an agile movement, the cat begins to attack the students. Ling Lun tries to call on her cell phone, thinking that it's someone who wants to harm them. But the masked person only extends their hand and shows a kind of talisman, exclaiming Jupiter Feather and Lunar Strike. Fortunately, Ling Lun moves quickly and avoids the attack. She tries to activate the absorption power, but she doesn't have enough points since her opponent is very strong. To buy some time, Ling Lun yells at Ah Hao to try to distract them. Everyone tries to escape separately, but the masked person jumps on them and slowly neutralizes each one with one blow. The cat is just about to attack RUANLUSHI, but Ling Lun appears and kicks the cat. The masked person realizes they underestimated the cat named WUWU, who now starts to chase after Ling Lun. At one point, WUWU jumps on her, and the masked person gives an order, but WUWU doesn't listen. Ling Lun activates the absorption ability option and bites the cat's ear, thus gaining access to WUWU's abilities, but she has to wait 5 seconds for it to take effect. However, the cat transforms into a beast, and just as it is about to attack Ling Lun, the masked person orders it to stop. WUWU then returns to its original cat form. The masked person asks the students to stay calm, takes off his mask, and reveals his face. With a smile, they indicate that they just wanted to test their strength and greet them in an original way, but everything went wrong. After that introduction, the school director appears to formally introduce the stranger as Major Guiyunxiao. Everyone is surprised and happy except for the protagonist, who doesn't know who he is. His friend Ahao scolds him and explains that he is the best graduating Sionist of the school, as well as one of the 9 leaders of the Psychic Association's murder investigation group. Ahao also tells him about all the solved cases and feats accomplished, including his ability to conjure spiritual transformation power. Despite everyone being happy and excited, Ling Lun doesn't show much emotion. Guiyunxiao explains that he was called to train them because they achieved the best grades in the school's history. The 4 students stand tall and excited, but Ling Lun looks at them apathetically. WW approaches Ling Lun's feet and purrs, prompting Guiyunxiao to tell her that her cat likes him. The 5 students, along with Guiyunxiao, then enter a special classroom, where he begins to explain the theoretical foundations of psionics. The first thing to know is that there are levels of psionic energy, classified by a star system, something like ranks. 1 star is linked to absorption, 2 stars with movement, 3 stars with materialization, 4 stars with shape-shifting, 5 stars with transformation, and 6 and 7 stars are hybrids. After Guiyunxiao explains this, Ahao interrupts, asking if he is invincible since he has a level of 5 stars and the ability to transform. Guiyunxiao explains that there are other variables to consider when defining who would win in a fight. The most important thing is to know and master one's own spiritual power and create one's own combat movements. To go into detail about each star, Guiyunxiao explains that the first star, called absorption, is the absorption of spiritual energy by the human. It is a slow process that can be increased with training. There are time periods, for example, waiting a day to digest 3 psionic portions of 5%, which is what allows for the awakening of a star. Ling Lun asks for permission to ask a question: what happens if someone swallows a psionic crystal? Guiyunxiao responds that it is very dangerous because the energy content is higher than 80% of the tolerable capacity, and it can even result in death. Then Ling Lun remembers when he swallowed the crystal. Continuing with the class, Guiyunxiao explains what the 2-star level consists of, which refers to movement. Once the body has absorbed spiritual energy, it travels throughout the body, strengthening it and allowing it to break the limits of the human body. While Ling Lun reflects on whether the abilities of Blood Giant, the ones that the attackers had, and Shadow Step are 2-star abilities. Guiyunxiao continues the class by telling them that they will be supplied with many psionic portions for the next month and a half, but not to worry because the school will cover all expenses during that time. He also invites them to take full advantage of the opportunity, and concludes his motivational speech by informing them that the theory is over and it's time for practice. Later, the students can be seen training hard in physical activities such as athletics, weightlifting, swimming, boxing, and rope training. It's a cycle. They have to spend all their energy and recharge it with the psionic potion. It's a lot of training, and they even have to climb a mountain with many steps. Guiyunxiao motivates them by warning them that if they take too long, they will have to do push-ups. We see how everyone climbs exhausted. Suddenly, Ahao and Ling Lun see each other and start competing to see who gets there first. On the last step, they both jump and fall, each claiming to have won. As they catch their breath, Ahao talks to Ling Lun and congratulates him on his performance over the days. He sees him motivated to become a psionist, but Ling Lun contradicts him, saying he's not sure about taking the final test because he doesn't want to be part of an association of people who are under someone else's control. In his mind, he remembers Jifang, Lei Hu, Wang Tian, and even the red-haired girl who was looking for Jifang. As they finish talking, the other classmates slowly arrive after climbing the stairs. However, Guiyunxiao reminds them that if they took too long to climb, they had to do push-ups. So, as punishment, they have to do an hour of planks. When they begin to do the exercises, Guiyunxiao points out Ling Lun and his friend Ahao as bad companions, leaving the others to do the exercises alone. Then Ling Lun asks Guiyunxiao if the association is really good, and he responds that it's not perfect and that they can be the next generation that can help improve it. Everyone nods that they want to belong to the association. Guiyunxiao smiles and tells them they have to work even harder to achieve it. Everyone looks amazed, and Guiyunxiao tells them to start their plank exercises for an hour. Days pass slowly, and the training continues arduously until they finally reach the last day of training, and it's time for the second round of the psionic exam. This is a national exam that will take place in the Eastern District.